Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. I'm your host, Kendra Nielsen, and today we're exploring a powerful concept that can transform your life as both a parent and a spouse, and this is the drama triangle. This truly is an eye-opening model that can help you break free from exhausting patterns and simply find more enthusiasm and passion in your daily life. Let's jump in and explore how understanding this drama triangle can lead to greater family fulfillment. I was talking to a colleague and friend who is also a therapist, and she was talking about the drama triangle and how it's really impactful with her clients. And I'd forgotten about it. I hadn't really reviewed it much except for in school. And I was like, oh, I should go back and look at it. So I really jumped in and did a bunch of research about it. And I was like, I really think this would help listeners and clients. And I would like to utilize this more because it really is pivotal in understanding and improving relationships. So, what exactly is it? Well, I'm going to start with an example. It's a typical weeknight at, let's say, the Adams house, and the wife, Jen, works from home part time and is also a stay at home mom, and she's completely exhausted. And her husband, Jake, is on the couch scrolling on his phone, and the kids are fighting again. The kitchen is a complete disaster from after school snacks, and Jen feels that frustration rising, and she thinks, why do I have to do everything around here? So she probably yells at her husband, Jake, and says something like, can't you see that I need help? You never help. You never pitch in when I need it. And obviously Jake feels attacked and he says something like, I've been busy all day too, you know. You always make me out to be the bad guy. And that cycle just keeps continuing with that same script. Well, meanwhile, their 10-year-old is watching this exchange and she starts crying and says, stop fighting. It's all my fault. I made the mess in the kitchen. And this perfectly illustrates what a drama triangle is in action. So now let's break it down and see how we can transform this interaction or this dynamic. Dr. Stephen Karpman developed the drama triangle, and it's this social model that describes three roles that people play in stressful situations or high conflict. And these are the three roles. Number one is the victim. This is the person that feels powerless and is at the mercy of their circumstances. The second one is the persecutor or the villain, and they're the one that blames or criticizes others. And then the third one is the rescuer or the hero, and they are the one that swoops in to save the day every time and often enable the victim. So in the story that I just told, Jen takes on that persecutor role to her husband, and Jake becomes the victim, and then we'll call her Ava, the child. She attempts to be the rescuer. So this is a dynamic that creates this cycle of blame, of defensiveness, and temporary fixes that never address the root issue. Now, I know you've seen this play out in your home. It does in ours all the time. We naturally go to this unless we see what's happening and we can change that cycle. Dr. Stephen Karpman said this, the drama triangle is a model of dysfunctional social interaction. Each player in the triangle has their own beliefs and behaviors that reinforce the problem rather than resolve it. So do you feel like that's the case in your house, where each person has their own beliefs and does their own part of this, but it just reinforces the problem instead of ever changing that cycle? Now let's see if we can recognize this drama triangle in parenting and relationship. I want to start here with the victim and think about in your family who might be the victim. It might be a parent who's constantly complaining about their child's behavior without taking any action, or a spouse who feels helpless about their marriage problems. And we can all be in those roles, right? We've all been there at one time or another, but often we seem to stay in one of those roles a little bit more than the other ones. The persecutor can be a parent who frequently criticizes their kids' efforts or achievements, or maybe a partner who blames their spouse for all the relationship issues. I feel like the rescuer is a little more obvious, a little easier to identify. That's often the parent who always does their child's homework or anything else to rescue them, to be that hero for them. Maybe it's even a spouse who repeatedly bails out their partner from, let's say, financial troubles without even addressing those spending habits. Now, you're probably asking yourself a valid question. How do we break free from this? How do we get out of this drama triangle? Because it really does create so much drama, and it's not helping create healthy connection in our home. Well, to escape this cycle, we can shift to what Dr. Emerald calls the empowerment dynamic. And this involves moving from victim to creator, and from persecutor to challenger, and from rescuer to coach. So when I was going through those scenarios, I want you to think about which one you often find yourself going to. Maybe it is the victim. So you could say like, okay, I can be a creator. Or maybe you are the one that's always maybe nagging. So from the persecutor to a challenger, like a healthy challenging. And that rescuer, instead of always trying to fix it and rescue people, instead to coach them, which is believing in them and empowering them to make their own changes instead of you rescuing them every time. David Emerald said this: the empowerment dynamic offers an antidote to the drama triangle. It's about moving from a reactive stance to a creative orientation. I really do like how each one is said pretty simply. I think it's easy to visualize how we can become a persecutor to instead a challenger, like healthy challenging instead of that nagging and controlling behavior, and that victim to the creator. That's essentially just going from that victim cycle to that ownership cycle. Like things are not happening to you, but things are happening for you, and start acting instead of being acted upon. And there's other episodes where we talk about the victim cycle, and you can do a search on that as well. I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes, but I don't always. Now let's talk about that story that I mentioned, but this time I want to change that perspective. So Jen, the wife here, recognizes her tendency to blame, and instead she takes a deep breath and she says something like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Can we talk about how to manage our evenings a little bit better? So that she becomes a creator. Instead of reacting, she finds solutions. So that's a solution-focused approach. And Jake, instead of feeling attacked, responds, you're right, let's figure this out together. What if we created a chore chart for the whole family? So instead of staying that victim, he becomes more of that challenger. And even in that, there's more solution-focused, right? Now, Ava, seeing her parents working together, says something like, how can I help? Can I be in charge of setting the table each night? And she becomes more of a creator. Instead of solving everyone's problems, she's just one that's a part of that solution instead of doing everything to rescue everyone. Now, there's just a few key steps that will help this work even better for parents and for spouses. And the first one is that self-awareness. So notice when you're slipping into that drama triangle pattern that you do over and over, where there's somebody in each one of those roles, even if there's more than 3 people in the room. Like, are you noticing some blaming or somebody feeling powerless or rushing to fix things? If this is happening in your family dynamics regularly, then you're in that drama triangle. Another very important thing to do is pause and reflect. Give yourself some time to process what's going on. So before reacting, take that moment to consider a more constructive response. And as always, use those I statements because that will help you express your feelings and your needs without that sarcasm or any of those other things that make that family communication less effective. So that can look like, I feel overwhelmed when I come home to a messy house, instead of, you never clean up the house, and using those infinites that just divide and shut people down. Another thing you can do is encourage problem solving, or like I mentioned, that solution focus. So instead of rescuing, or guide your kids or your spouse to find their own solutions instead of being the one that is solving everything or you feel like you have to solve everything. And last but not least, always practice that active listening. Really hear what your family members are saying without immediately jumping in to fix things. Don't be afraid to give them some empathy and some validation before you go right into that, okay, now here's what we're going to do. And that will really soften hearts. Thomas Crum said this: the quality of our lives depends not on whether we have conflicts, but on how we respond to them. My friends, we all have entered that drama more times than we want to admit. But what are we going to do with that information now that we recognize that there is a pattern there that we can disrupt that will improve our family life? Now, I'm going to really briefly share a last example so you can really cement this into your mind. So I'm going to talk about a fictional family here called the Garcias. So Maria is a working mom, and she often felt like a victim, overwhelmed with household responsibilities. And her husband, Carlos, would criticize her for not managing things well and would often be that persecutor. Their teenage son, Alex, tried to keep the peace by taking on extra chores and acting as that rescuer. Now, if they apply these things, this is what can happen instead. Maria starts expressing her needs clearly and taking charge of her schedule to become that creator. Carlos instead offers support and suggestions instead of just criticism and becomes the challenger. And then Alex learns to contribute without feeling responsible for his parents' relationship. What happens every time with my clients is that a more harmonious home results with improved communication and shared responsibility because of that increased collaboration and that lack of drama in the home. Okay, now I just want to recap some of those main points that I talked about today. Drama triangle roles are the victim, the persecutor, and the rescuer. This creates a cycle of conflict and stress in families, but we can shift to creators and challenges and coaches, and this will transform that family dynamic and lessen that drama in your home. When we actually practice that self-awareness and that conscious communication, we are able to break free from that drama pattern. This, in turn, creates a more fulfilling family life. My friends, this will take time and practice, so please be patient. I am not nailing this all the time, but we are trying. We just try to recognize when that comes up. When we see those 3 roles popping up in our family of 6, sometimes different people take on different roles, but typically we have a favorite one that we go to, so it's a little easier to identify. As you begin to implement these changes, you're really creating that legacy of emotional intelligence for your kids. And not only that, but you're changing that generational pattern, and it is often generational, of having that drama triangle in your home, and instead having a more peaceful home with greater collaboration and communication. Thanks for joining me today. If you feel like this episode could help somebody you care about or love, please screenshot, send it to a friend, or post it in social media. And look in the show notes so you can find us in all the places. We are regularly posting content to help you take your mental health and wellness to the next level in both your personal and family life. And we are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we are all over the place. We do 2 blogs a week and 2 podcast episodes a week on Mondays and Thursdays. So you can always check those out. Like I said, the links are in the show notes, and you can check out our website at fulfillmenttherapy.org. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next time. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you, no matter what your house or your hair looks like. I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.